Tomato farming. Tomato has become a very important vegetable crop. It is a warm seasonal crop cultivated as an annual. Tomato plants are either determinate, semi-determinate, or indeterminate. Determinate varieties set fruits at the terminal buds and then growth stops. Therefore, harvest time is short, lasting between a week and 2 weeks. An indeterminate variety does not set fruits at the terminal bud. The growing point produces leaves and more stems. Therefore, harvest can last for months. Training and staking is required to get healthy and clean fruits.
Now, for farmers who want to engage into tomato production, it is important that before even thinking of that, you look at the environment. Even though tomatoes can be produced in a variety of sites, locations, but for the soil type, you have to look for a soil that has a high water capacity and also good drainage too. In as much as it needs water, it shouldn't be a waterlogged.
To farm tomatoes in the open field or greenhouses, it is important to use improved varieties.
Now there are a number of varieties, a lot of varieties in different locations in different parts of the world. The variety that you want to plant definitely depends to an extent the purpose for which you want to use it for. There are varieties that have high water content, there are varieties that have less water content. The less water content has less, means they can store preservation is better. And it depends on also the use. If you want to go into production, a commercial production of tomatoes, that you can go into processing, then definitely varieties like Roma and Ronita, you will select those ones. Varieties like the beef tomatoes, particularly, they are good for salad. So a number of times, definitely you have to decide on what the purpose for which, that will determine the type of variety that you will select.
It is important that you pick the best species and variety. These include Roma VF, Big Beef, Cherry Tomatoes, Eva, Nemonata, amongst others. Many of these are disease resistant and have higher market value. Tomatoes can be seeded directly or raised in a nursery. Raising in a nursery is also referred to as protective breeding. You can use your backyard for the nursery or any piece of land that is suitable for it. Nursery trays can also be used. A compost of wood, grasses, manure, and loamy soil is excellent for nursery preparation. Losing the soil with hand trowel and hose. The nursery should be protected by a shed or using dry grasses to prevent moisture loss. The seedling should be watered every day. Watch out for pests that can feed on the seeds.
Now for planting, normally tomatoes will start by the nursery. The nursery is done by constructing a seed bed that at least is 15 centimeters above the ground. And when planting the seed on that, the germination takes place 8 days after planting. Now then you transplant to the permanent site where it intends to produce the tomatoes, whether it is a greenhouse, whether it is an open field, that is the permanent site. And in the nursery, after germination, it's expected that transplanting will take place 1 month after planting the seed. That is from the nursery. And where it is transplanted at the permanent site.
After planting, the seeds are expected to germinate in 5 to 7 days. Planting can be done in batches to enable harvesting to be done in batches as well, perhaps 2 weeks apart. Transplanting to the garden or farm.
Planting the seeds, the nursery, from the nursery, it spends 21 days to 21 to 25 days in the nursery before you transplant. After transplanting, it takes around 80 to 90 days before you start harvesting the tomato. For the beef tomato, like the ones we have here, if properly taken care of, you can harvest for a period of 3 to 4 months. Then we have the beef, and then we have the plum. They have the same characteristics when we talk about nursery to transplanting and then harvesting too. If you take care of it very well, it grows quite high. Sometimes you can have up to 15 feet, so you have to be lowering it as you harvest it.
It is expected that tomatoes will be allowed in the nursery for 4 weeks before transplanting to the permanent farm, where they would grow to maturity. Transplanting is done with a lot of care to prevent damages to the crops. Tomato plant is very tender and fragile. Transplanting is preferably done on the same day the plant is taken out of the nursery to avoid dehydration and fatigue. It is advised that animal manure or compost be added to the soil to enrich the soil. This can be done with topsoil in the ratio of 1:3 or 1:4, depending on the fertility of the soil. Weeding and fertilizer application. After 2 months of transplanting, it is important to carry out weeding.
As much as possible for weeding, you keep the fields free of weeds. Chemical fertilizers, agrochemicals, as much as possible. In other parts of the world, it's being discouraged, considering the fact that they are vegetables, they are fruits. Some people may want to eat raw without boiling, and you apply chemicals on them, sometimes take to the market, there's an effect. So as much as possible, if you are using chemicals to control weeds, as much as possible it should be pre-emergence at planting time. Then subsequently, manually, you keep the field weed free as much as possible.